This is Jay Michaels in time and space for Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival week on Channel I. You're going to hear from a gaggle of filmmakers in the leading genre film festival, the #1 film festival in America, and only the second longest running genre film festival in the world. Boston Sci-Fi, really thrilled to be part of it. Next week, the festival opens and there's going to be over 75 different films, panels, events, etc. So we're expecting quite an amazing event. You might ask yourself, well, how did this festival get to be so brilliant? This is how, by dealing with filmmakers like this. Gentlemen, tell us all about your films. Let's start out in space. Justin Brown, tell us about your movie.
Hey there. My movie's called Rift. It's about a 13-minute short film about a lady from Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia, where I'm from here on the East Coast, a little bit more Atlantic than Boston. But she's trying to reconcile with the fact that she's been abducted by aliens. There's two other ladies from the same town that claim the same tale, and it's called Rift because the town is sort of divided on whose story is legit and whose is a little bit wacky. This is the perfect script for a movie, but it's not a movie, it's a documentary. This is really what's going on down here on the South Shore. And incidentally, it's the same town that hosts the world's only government documented UFO crash in 1967. So it was, nearly impossible to try, to avoid this story. I thought this was wonderful. That's it in a nutshell.
This is a documentary?
It is.
So these are real people you're talking about.
These are real people, and some of the reactions I've gotten from the film is that it's, really kind of uncomfortable to see these people in these town hall meetings all getting together to discuss the different stories. But it's all real. It's all real reactions and emotions, and it's a film that was sort of accidentally spawned. Because I was sort of pitching an idea for another movie to a filmmaker friend. I wasn't making films at all. And they told me I should make the movie and convinced me to do it. So I used this short film to be sort of my guinea pig, to sort of hone my skills. And here we are. This is my my 7th selection, my 8th selection actually, with the Boston Sci-Fi Film Fest as my first kick at the can.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love when I hear based on a true story, because there's something so much more chilling about hearing that what we're seeing might actually have happened, and you're talking to the people that it happened. Wow. What did you come away with in talking to these people? You could share or not share. What was your opinion of the stories you heard? What was your thoughts behind their alien abduction?
Well, it's sort of a cookie cutter scenario with the main character. It's almost the archetypical alien gray story you hear in all the abduction stories. So it sort of fits that mold. The situation is, though, that the main character has a pretty good standing in the town and people really look up to her and respect her. It might be easy to sort of just like brush it off if this was just a story, but it turns out that, as you'll see in the short film, on Valentine's Day around 3 p.m. Boston time, that's Eastern time, she's got tons of photographs of all the different events that are associated with her experiences. And the biggest takeaway that I had from this was that there's something unusual happening in Shag Harbor. And one of the greatest authors and researchers on this particular case in 1967 is affiliated with this short film as well. He's in the film. And he sort of let me in on some spooky stuff. Like, it didn't end in 67 and it's been going on ever since, from fireballs to ghosts to orbs to abductions to my own personal accidental experience with a drone. And I've got high definition footage of this thing and brought everybody in the town in to see it. So there's something happening there. And I think it's like Friedrich Nietzsche says, the longer and deeper you look into the abyss, there's a great possibility that the abyss is going to begin to look back, and somehow it got to me too.
Oh, I think that's great. I'm a big. I don't know whether I'm sounding intellectual or insane, but I can't believe we are the only planet that has such life, that has sentient life, that has life that can travel, and documentaries like yours are really trying to push at people to say, okay, hey, you know what? Look a little higher as you're looking up at the stars. I think that's really amazing. Now, you said you're on Valentine's Day at 3 p.m.
That's right.
Wow, that's take a date to see that documentary. Wow.
It's worth it. And this film was really special to me because it wasn't just me as a director or filmmaker, like it was me as a cinematographer, it was me as the audio engineer in the background, putting all of that stuff together, editing. I did all the video editing. I did all of that stuff, all personal investments. I ended up getting a grant from the Canada Council for the Arts here that was super helpful to help finish the film. And with all of the current news going on about science and what we know about the universe, I think it's just a matter of time before we realize how infinitesimally small we really are in the grand context of things. So I think that it's important that we all keep our minds open when we see these stories. And even if the people do sound crazy on the other side of the fence, does not necessarily mean that they are.
Well put. Well put. I hope I live long enough to hear that news story where they say, oh, it's real. I don't care if I'm 90. I don't care if I'm barely conscious. I just want to hear them. I'm sure there are people who, when we landed on the moon in 1969, just went, wow, I lived to see it. I would just like to see something come back. So that's what I think we all would. Yeah. Wow, that's great. Caleb, tell me about your film.
So, first off, I just want to say, Justin, your project sounds awesome. I can't wait to watch it.
Thank you.
Don't want to spoil too much. I think our films have some similar themes. So Blood Moon is the first feature film that I've written and directed. Brief log line: after a summer of drifting apart, Will and his friends reunite when a mysterious event makes the sky change color. What started as a normal night becomes a harrowing fight for survival. It's a like fast-paced, fun throwback. It's scary, it's thrilling, it's
throwback to what?
Throwback to my favorite films that I grew up watching, which is horror films from the 80s.
So this is a tribute to the 80s.
A little bit.
Is this a slasher film?
Not a slasher film. No. It's a little bit more weird and out there. I don't want to spoil exactly what happens, but it's not slasher. It's not a slasher film.
I'm glad you said that. When you said the sky changes color and it's of the 80s, are we getting a They Live feeling? Like there's something out there?
John Carpenter was a massive inspiration for the film.
That's very cool. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Wow. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. That's great. 80s films inspired you. John Carpenter inspired you. How'd you create this storyline? What inspiration?
Well, I originally had the idea when I was like 13 or 14. I was on Reddit and I saw a writing prompt where someone was talking about like emergency alert systems. And I went online and I heard these emergency alert systems and they just sounded so creepy. And so I kind of had an idea about like, what if that was like the beginning of this bigger thing and it started out as kind of like this normal thing, and it all really came from that sound. And then I started thinking about, as an independent filmmaker, like you're always looking for ways to like cut costs and to kind of have a grand concept while keeping it kind of low in budget. And I was like, if we have these people sheltering in place somewhere and they can't go outside, it does two things. One, it saves you a ton of money, right? And I also believe in horror, at least in the horror films I love the most, it's not about what they show, it's about what they don't show. Because your imagination is always going to be more terrifying than something you can actually put on screen. Right. And so we were really able to play to that while still complementing our independent roots.
It's really interesting that you're saying shelter in place, because what are we doing now?
Yeah, that that's a really interesting point, because the characters basically, other than the beginning of the film, they spend the movie in this house, and it's about their relationships and kind of what they have to go through as people and how they adapt to the situation. And there's this feeling of claustrophobia and being trapped, and you don't know what's out there, and they don't know what the future is going to hold. They don't know what's going to happen in this night. And it ended up being a pretty apt metaphor for what we're in right now. And
wow. When did you do this film?
We shot it last summer, so summer of 2019.
2019. So
Yeah.
You were a bit clairvoyant right there.
Yeah, sadly.
Wow. That's so cool. When is it shown? When are we seeing your film?
It is showing Wednesday, February 10th at 9 p.m. It's the latest showing. So it'll be a little bit like a midnight movie.
I love that.
People should go check it out. It'll be fun.
There you go. That's when it's ultra scary. Ethan, tell us about your film.
Hello. So I am actually partners with Kayla, which I think we failed to mention at the beginning. So
no. Oh, that's
yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. So I was the producer, and I guess with a small crew, kind of the everything guy along with Caleb in making this film.
Oh, this is great. Okay, I get to hear two opinions now. So tell me your thoughts, because we've already mentioned it with Caleb about the clairvoyancy of being sheltered in place. We mentioned the otherworldliness of the sky changing and people's feelings of it. Tell me about your thoughts on this.
I mean, I think it ended up having, the story itself ended up having two meanings, the second meaning coming unintentionally from, like you mentioned, from where we are kind of now, stuck in home. And it's quite funny looking back, rewatching the film, seeing how Caleb even had set up a sign with a quote, which will be, guess a little nod. Maybe people should see if they can spot it when they watch the film. But it is quite funny how there are those two parallels as well, and it kind of almost, in a way, with our budget and our time schedule, we had kind of felt like that in some ways. We were pretty much stuck in that one house for well over a month filming this film, so it was interesting. It was fun.
Ethan, I think you should tell them what the poster says. It's just too crazy.
Yeah, I guess the poster says "Get tested." It's a sign that was not about, obviously it was not about coronavirus testing, but it just plays into it way too much.
I chose the sign because it showed six stick figures, and there's six main characters in the film in the group. So I just thought it would be like an interesting visual in the background to kind of have this representation. And that was just at the top. It was this old medical sign. And Ethan pointed out to me rewatching the film, and I was like, oh my God.
I'm of the mind, and I say this far too much, but I'll say it still many more times. Horror, sci-fi, and fantasy are all parables, no matter how small a budget, no matter when it's done, no matter what language. It is a parable. It is a cautionary tale that we need to listen to. Now Justin is handing us the reality of it. And we almost see it right there. We make jokes about other worlds constantly, but no, I have a feeling there's some truth there, and I'm so glad Justin is grabbing that. And you're showing this also, the notion of being tested, the notion of sheltering in place, and all of that, very clairvoyant. Please, if we had just watched Contagion a little stronger in 2011.
Yes.
Now, Ethan, you're making a point of talking about the budget a great deal.
Yeah.
What did you guys have to do? I'll use the word concessions. What compromises, what changes did you have to make? Were there any points where you said, here's our story, but here's our budget? How do we make them work?
Yeah, that definitely came up. I mean, that was something that was a part of every decision we made, with whether it was purchasing a prop or whatever, even our schedule, that definitely had some effect. And I think some things kind of worked in our favor, even having limited budget. Like we had a lot of pretty much all of our effects are practical, which adds a whole fun dynamic to it. So I think something like that kind of adds a positive, but there are a lot of things. I mean, that was our biggest struggle, to be honest, as I think probably most people will agree, is our budget and raising the money. I mean, with renting equipment, that was something that we had to keep in mind, having such a small budget that we had to make. You know, there was a lot of strategic decisions about when we were renting what equipment and for how long. And so it kept us on a tight schedule as well, but definitely had a lot of variables for that.
When people hear small budget, they immediately think negatively, but I can think of a particular film done way back when that was in a home that was shot almost entirely in a house, and the filmmaker asked the entire community to please help in some way to make the movie happen so he could keep within budget. Maybe you've heard of it, Night of the Living Dead. George Romero asked the entire town, he did it in Pennsylvania, and he asked the entire town to please help him. And like a butcher would hand him, you know, animal pieces that the living dead could eat and things like that. And in return, since he couldn't pay them, he said, "You can be a zombie in my movie." And so it's like the entire town just became The Walking Dead for it. And from what I hear, the movie did very well. May you have that kind of luck. Okay, when is yours playing again? When did you say yours was playing again?
Caleb, do you have the date?
Yeah, it's Wednesday, February 10th at 9 p.m.
Wednesday, February. That's right. You're the almost midnight show.
Yes.
And Justin, you're the bring a date to find out what it's like to be abducted film.
Yeah, that's right.
Excellent, excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just a sampling of the myriad films that Boston Sci-Fi is bringing us this year for their 46th season. Log on to bostonscifi.com. That's Boston, SCIFI.com for tickets, for schedules, for contests, for panels, for all sorts of amazing things from this amazing festival. And this interview will be on Channel I. Go to J Michaels Arts, JayMichaelsArts.com, and look for the link there so you can see this interview and scores of other interviews and information about Boston Sci-Fi and so many other independent film and independent theater events. Gents, thank you so much. I'm really excited to see your films. It's great. I didn't intend on it, but we have two sort of from outer space movies
Yes,
that we got to talk about it. So that was a lucky break. Give them hell. Have a wonderful time at the festival, and I look forward to hearing great things.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Yeah,
Pleasure.
go Boston Sci-Fi.
Yeah, go Boston Sci-Fi.